Hello, beautiful artists. It's Kelly Folsom here, and I want to welcome you back to another Art Life Conversations podcast. Today, I'm going to be talking with you, sharing what I've learned about running your own uh, studio sale or your own opening, your own show of your artwork. And so, I'm going to be going over 5 steps that you want to go through and check off each step, both before the sale, during the sale, and after the sale. So if this sounds like something that you're interested in, then stick around because at the very end, I'm going to be giving you a very special tip that you don't want to miss and you don't want to forget to do after your studio show or sale is complete. Okay, so this is specifically targeted to doing an in-person, like in-house, in studio, or it could be at somebody else's studio or another venue. It doesn't have to be your own personal studio. So it'll be specifically focused on that, not on running an online show, okay? So while there's similarities between doing online shows and sales to in person, there's actually quite a few differences as well. So step one, you're going to get clear on the details, okay? This includes the when, the where, the who, and the what, right? And the main thing to keep in mind here is hashtag done is better than perfect. Okay, to all of my fellow overdoers and hyperachievers out there in the world, try to keep this simple, right? KISS, keep it simple, sweetie. So, when are you going to have the sale? You want to make sure to give yourself plenty of lead time here to prep for the sale and to prep your audience for the sale in advance. Okay, so I would say you probably at least need a couple of weeks, even if you're like a real go-getter. It's not totally about you as the artist. You want to give your audience plenty of time to plan, which will set you up for success with the art show that you want to do. So I would say 30 days is a good rule of thumb to plan about 30 days in advance, 1 month in advance. That way you have plenty of time to get everything done, get it announced right away. And if you're wondering, like, when is the best, but Kelly, when is the best time? Because this is where we can get caught up in the hows and all the little nitty gritty details. You know, sometimes this is really trial and error. You might think, oh, I don't want to do it Mother's Day weekend because it's Mother's Day weekend. Well, that might actually be a perfect weekend to do it. You don't know. Now, here's the other thing that you can think about doing, and that is send out an announcement to whoever you're thinking about inviting to get some feedback on this. Like, hey, is there ever a day of the week that's just like, hey, I would love to be there, but there's no way that I would go, whether that's a Sunday or Saturday or maybe a Friday night. You know, maybe the people you're thinking about inviting just have too many other plans going on a regular basis on those days. So you can actually get some feedback first before you set the date. What a concept. You could send out an email or a text message if you're inviting people that you know, and just let them know, hey, I'm thinking about doing an art show. And I'm curious if I were to have it, give maybe a few options. If I were to have this show on a Friday night, Saturday, Saturday afternoon, or Sunday, evening, maybe give them a few options and ask them which one would, be most ideal for your schedule. That would kind of help you get a sense of maybe what might be a better day and time for your audience, is just to ask, right? That's one thing I've learned as an artist and a professional artist over the last and running my own art business over the last 15 years, 13, 14, 15 years, is the power of just asking in advance so that you can set yourself up for success. But even then, don't expect everybody who replied to, show up, even though they told you that they could show up on that day, right? But mostly you want to get an idea of when you want to have it. And then where are you going to have this art show? Are you going to do it on your own? Do you want to maybe host a co-op show with other artists? I've done both of those in the past. Working with multiple other artists tends to take more prep work and more collaboration, and it gets a bit more complex whenever you're working with multiple other artists, but it can be done. And then who do you plan to invite? Do you know who would be interested in coming? Do you have a list of potential people who would like to come, whether that's friends and family? Maybe you already have a list of collectors. Keep in mind that in-person shows, you you're reliant on people being within traveling distance, so you may have an email list that has people on it all over the country, but maybe 90% of those people might not be in your area and might not be able to come. Okay, so and then what do you plan to show? Is this a general overall, show? Do you have a special collection that you want to showcase? Is there something special about this art studio show that you want to do? So you just want to get clear on those details. When, where, who are you going to invite, and what do you plan to show? You might think of the title of the show or the sale, or a theme, for yourself, or maybe it's a special unveiling of a new series that you've been working on. Okay, step two is doing the prep work. This involves, prepping your art, the art that you want to show, and of course that goes, without saying, but what paintings need to be perhaps varnished or framed if you do that sort of thing. Pricing, getting everything priced. You want everything to have a clear price on it. I've found that having individual tags or individual price tags right underneath the artwork to be the most successful. You can do, a price list, but most of the time people, with titles and things like that. But I think keep it easy, like what is the minimum amount of work, time, money, and effort required for you to run this art show and sell, which brings us to budgeting, right? So you want to set a budget, and most of the time we think about budgeting in terms of money, and that's great, but you also want to think about your time budget. How much time do you really realistically have to put towards this show? How much have you, estimated how much time you think it's going to take? Have you given yourself a time limit in terms of how much work you're actually going to put in? Again, to my fellow overachievers, overdoers out there, my hard workers, my go-getters, like myself, this is really where we can get into trouble, and we can actually do way too much work in advance and want everything to be perfect to the perfectionists out there, and end up burning yourself out before the show even gets here, before the thing even happens, right? So again, hashtag done is better than perfect. And you just want to get clear for yourself and your own boundaries about how much time you want to invest, you're willing to invest in this, and be reasonable with it. At the end of the show, after all is said and done, you don't want to feel like resentful or regretful that you put so much work, money, time, effort into this, and it didn't, pay off the way that you had hoped, right? Because a lot of doing your own shows and sales is really a lot about trial and error, testing things out, seeing what works, and we're not always guaranteed the outcome, right? So think ahead about that. Try to make sure you don't burn yourself out, both financially or energetically, before the show even gets here. Prepping your space, what do you need to do to prep the space for the show? And when do you need to get into that space if it's not your own space to get everything set up and ready to go. Again, I would say here, this is a question I often get, like, Kelly, is it better to have tons of artwork or fewer pieces? And I would say, I've definitely made the mistake where I've had so many choices for people, right? Like way too many, uh, pulled every painting I've ever created, or every piece of art that's even available for sale. And that can really overwhelm, visitors and buyers. So I advise here less is more. If we confuse them, we lose them, right? So you want to make sure that all of your art is nicely displayed. I don't, like what's currently set up in my studio right now, like paintings on the drying rack, like that's going to be too cluttered. It's going to be too disorganized. So you want to make sure to have, things nicely displayed. So for example, a wall like this behind me might be a nice, happy, kind of, this is a good amount, right? Everything is viewable. There's enough space between paintings, and you don't have too many paintings to choose from. Okay, so try to keep, everything looking pretty cohesive with similar framing. Don't be kind of all over the place with your framing options. I would say, maybe have a couple of different frame styles and that's it. Now, I would recommend think about what kind of price points do you want to offer. You want to think about who's coming to your sale. This is all in the prep work. So if you feel like, you need to have some pieces that are in a particular price range or more affordable than say some of the other pieces, like what I just showed you for my work, using me as an example, what I would recommend doing is that you have a designated space. Maybe this is for works on paper, or maybe it's for unframed works or for studies, some kind of, or maybe it's prints, or could be printed materials, like perhaps you have a book of your art for sale. Try to have something that is a lower price value. It does not have to be an original work of art, but I would highly recommend that you have something that people can purchase to support you if they can't afford to buy one of your higher priced pieces. Um, this is both for them to feel like that they showed up, they got something out of the deal, so to speak, and also they get the joy and pleasure of knowing that they were able to support you, even if they could not do it on a higher level investment right now. This is also very, very good for you and for the future of your business, because you never want to underestimate a customer that comes in as a customer on a lower price level. A large percentage of the time, once they have purchased something from you, they tend to buy more in the future. And what I've discovered is that you're building a relationship with them. You're building a like, know, and trust with those customers, and in relationship over time. And so it might take 2 years, 3 years before they ever, spring for a higher value, original painting. But you don't want to be angry at that's the last thing you want to do, is be angry at those customers. Like, oh, everybody's just so cheap, everybody just wants the cheap stuff. And no judgment there, because I have definitely felt, said, and thought all of those things, okay? But this is just a way that you can sabotage yourself and your future success. So with customers, you also want to think of every purchase, big or small, is sowing a seed. You are building a relationship with them. And sometimes those relationships don't come to full bloom right away. Sometimes they take a lot of planting, a lot of watering, a lot of, just keep connecting over the years until that customer, until it comes to full bloom in that relationship. Okay. So that's one thing, one key thing, one of my key takeaways there is I would recommend that you do have something more affordable, but keep it tight, right? Like keep the options fewer. I would maybe pick one or two things on a lower level, lower price level on your pricing tier, right? So whether that is you've got a couple of prints to choose from, or maybe you've done a set of note cards and you have some small works that are lower price, perhaps, and have them in a designated area where the price is very clear. Please, please, please price all of your items, okay? And make the pricing very easy and clear for your customers so they don't have to ask. People feel super uncomfortable most of the time asking how much is that, right? So you want them to be able to see right away whether or not they can whether or not they want to invest in that item with you. Okay, step 3 is to seed and attract. Okay, so what does this mean? This means seeding your sale, right? Again, doing the prep. This is part of the prep work, but specifically focused on planting and seeding and attracting your potential collectors and customers prior to the sales. So, what do you intend to do there? Are you sending out personal invites? Are you doing emails? Are you, is it a physical thing in the mail? Are you doing emails, text messages, phone calls? Are you publishing in your local paper or some kind of online neighborhood forum? If you're inviting the public, um, who are you going to invite, and how are you going to invite them? And you want to make sure that, again, that you are doing this enough in advance. So once you decide all the details or minimal details for your sale and show, if you're going to do a sale, but you want to, definitely start announcing it right away, as soon as possible. You don't want to start announcing it 2 weeks prior to the sale. Again, this sets you up for disappointment, especially if you're waiting till a week prior to the sale. So let's say you have a 30-day runway. Every week you want to be touching base, whether that's via email, and it's probably best to do some combo of these things, but sending out announcements. It could be announcements on your social media page, or if you're in particular Facebook groups, or on your Instagram. So make sure that you're staying consistent with keeping those announcements top of mind and keeping that contact throughout the month. Okay. Do you have any ideas? You want to think about this before you begin. Do you have any ideas that will help boost attendance? Most of the time, things like, how can you make it more exciting, right? Most of the time, things like there's going to be free hors d'oeuvres and wine might not be enough to get people there, right? So it might for some people, but you may want to consider brainstorming other ideas. Maybe you're going to do a giveaway. Maybe everybody that comes walks away with a free gift, whether that's just something as small as, like, here's a set of 3 note cards of my artwork. Thank you for coming to my show. So think about ways that you can entice more people to attend your show. I would recommend the giveaway option, or a gift for attending, um, if that is within your time and your financial budget for your sale. Okay, step 4. This is really important. Um, the other thing. Sorry, the other thing I wanted to um, cover here on the seed and attract is, what are you going to do what's your plan to capture people's contact information during the actual sale? And this is also where a giveaway can come in handy. But how can you get people's email, their contact information, like their email addresses and their mailing addresses if you're doing a local show where you can be sure the next time you do a show, you can send them something physical in the mail, like a physical invite. So, how are you going to capture new people who are not already on your list? And that can also be part of your seed and attract, where you encourage people, please bring a friend. If you bring a friend, you get an extra, entry into the giveaway or something like that. So you can encourage people to invite others to the sale as well. And then you want to have a way to capture this new contact information and encourage people to share that with you. Okay. So that's one thing I would think about. How are you going to plan to do that? And again, I feel like, a giveaway is a fun way to do that, whether that's for a print or for maybe it is for a small original, or whatever you decide to do there. Okay, step 4, this is really, really important, and that is to celebrate. No matter what the outcome was, even if nobody showed up, again, talking to my high achievers out there, my people pleasers, my procrastinators, my perfectionists, my fellow avoiders of the hard things. Even if nobody shows up, let's imagine the worst case scenario. Okay, you do all this work, all this effort, spend the money, spend the time, and nobody comes. Or let's say a few people come, but they were your friends or your family and you expected them to come anyway. But nobody bought anything. So play out different scenarios. Be sure to plan for how you're going to deal with any disappointments that come your way. A lot of times we do tend to exaggerate both ends of the extreme. And those of us who are super optimistic maybe expect everything to really turn out well, and we're going to make a lot of sales, and we're going to sell a lot of our art, and everybody's going to love our work, and nobody's going to say anything rude or off color, or you know so I tend to fall in that camp. And then other people maybe just expect a total disaster, and so that stops them before they even get started. But no matter what happens, you can celebrate yourself for showing up and doing this for yourself, for getting the experience, right? For creating this learning experience for yourself. So you want to celebrate what you've done regardless of the outcome, because it's not about the end result, the end outcome. I know it's really hard to like make that mindset shift, but it really is so important. So rule number 1 is you do not blame yourself or blame others, but most importantly, don't blame yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Don't, oh, I should have done this, or I didn't do this right. And Kelly told me to do this and I didn't do it. No matter what, don't go into kind of self-judgment, self-criticism. Watch out for that inner critic voice that's talking to most of us a lot of the time. So how are you going to celebrate? Plan in advance how you're going to celebrate yourself. Are you going to take yourself out the next day for a nice walk? Maybe you're going to take yourself out for a nice brunch or a massage, or have a celebratory glass of champagne. Really think about, no matter what happens, how can I really celebrate this experience so that it's anchored in for you as a positive experience, and you reward yourself. You don't wait for other people to give you rewards. You reward yourself just for showing up and doing the work. Okay, so that you are going to be more inclined to do it again. Because every time you do one of these, you're going to learn from the experience. You're going to get, feedback or advice from people who came or didn't come. And that's in the next step, is the follow up. It's so important, this final step, but you're going to learn from doing this. But much like learning how to paint, If you are making it such a painful experience and only about how good is the finished painting, you're probably going to have some pretty large gaps of inactivity in between each painting. In this case, in between hosting a show, it might take you a whole other year to host a show, or a whole other 6 months. And this is really where artists sabotage themselves, by waiting too long to get those repetitions in. And much like building mastery in painting requires, repetition and practice and feedback and learning and taking on, advice and criticism and all the things, the same is true whenever you are running your business. Like, that's just the way all of this works. I wish that it was less challenging sometimes myself. And I know that that is just the nature of, selling artwork. Okay, so you want to make sure to celebrate yourself. And one key tip I want to recommend here is make sure that you have a cheerleader at the show with you, somebody that just like is really good for you to help you like believe in yourself more, calm you emotionally, perhaps during the show or during the sale. Um, and make sure you have somebody that's on your team that is there so that you're not just all by yourself. That could be your partner, that could be a fellow artist who's a good friend who is, y'all are in this together and you cheerlead each other, you support each other, and you don't get in each other's boat and feed the sabotage, Um, and there's one point I forgot to share. Let me go back on Feed and Attract. I'm sorry, but on Feed and Attract, one idea I would like you to consider doing, and that is offering a special promotion to get more people there. I know a lot of artists really resist, offering a discount or a sale on something, but I'm telling you, it really does help attract more people. It doesn't have to be anything huge. You could also consider doing a special gift with purchase, or something like that as well, if you don't want to do like a percentage off. But that is a tip that I would highly recommend, that does help boost your sales right there and then. And I would also say, like, this price is only good during the show, during the open house, whatever you're calling it, and it expires. So you have to be here in order to take advantage of it, right? So that is one other tip that I would recommend you doing under the Seed and Attract strategy. Okay, tip number five, not tip, but step number five is follow up. Follow up with people after the sale. Again, this can be through your emails, social media. This could be sending thank you cards in the mail for everyone who attended. And maybe you even have already decided when your next show is going to be, and you can kind of make that double duty there, where you, or double purpose, whenever you send out thank you cards to people who came, also announce the next show. Even if that is 60 days out, I'm going to challenge you to commit to the next show right away, even if it's 3 months out. Again, make sure that you're getting enough consistency. One thing I've learned is that the more consistently we do something, the more people are going to be expecting it, and sometimes even looking forward to it. Like, oh, Kelly, when are you going to do your next show? Insert your name. When are you going to do your next show? Oh, darn it, I couldn't make it to the last one, but I would love to be at the next one. Please make sure that I know about it. And that's part of follow up too, is getting those responses in, and then again, responding back to those people, sending them an email reply, or, texting them back, or however you're communicating with your people. Make sure that you're following up with them and that you're replying to them. And I know that that can be hard to do, because most of us artists, myself included, just want to be doing our creative work, and especially if you feel like, oh man, oh, I'm so not good with this stuff. I'm an introvert. I'm not a people person, you know, so especially if that's you, you know, you might ask yourself, like, how can I make this easier for me? Or maybe you even need to enlist some help. Maybe you need to ask a friend to help you. Maybe you need to lean on AI sometimes to compose responses if you feel like it's just too stressful or takes too much time and you feel awkward and you don't know what to say. Again, utilize everything as a learning possibility. You want to be authentic and be yourself, and you want to be savvy in how you run your business. So you don't have to be any different than who you are in order to run a successful business, but just watch out and just watch out for those kind of old ways that we stop ourselves. Maybe you've stopped yourself or sabotaged yourself in the past. Okay, so that is my final step, follow up, and my final tips on that, on following up. I hope that this has been helpful to you. Let me know if you have more questions around running an in-person, you know, sale or show. Anything that you need further clarification on, send me an email at info at artlifewithkelly, with an I.com. And if you liked this information and you want some more courses on this, you can either join the Art Life School as a member. It's a monthly subscription membership, or you can buy, I do have a course called Double Your Painting Sales in 30 Days, which includes a lot more details, and you can grab that on my site, artlifewithkelly.com. Okay, everybody, until next time, I'm wishing you all happy creating. Bye for now.